up for a free account today. Advanced Micro Devices Inc., or AMD, is an American multinational semiconductor company based in Santa Clara, California, that develops computer processors and related technologies for business and consumer markets. Intel Corporation is also an American multinational corporation and technology company headquartered in Silicon Valley, California. Intel is the world's second largest and second highest valued semiconductor chip manufacturer based on revenue after being overtaken by Samsung. Two large, competitive corporations battling it out to stay ahead of one another. So how do they stack up side by side? That's what we'll find out today. In this episode of the Infographics Show, AMD versus Intel. AMD and Intel are fierce rivals in the world of central processing units, or CPUs. But why is the CPU you choose to buy so important? Well, it's pretty simple really. If you're in the market for a new computer, which CPU you choose can have a major impact on the performance of your new machine. But of course, it's always a challenge choosing the best product for an individual's particular situation, so let's take a step back and first look at what the CPUs are all about. If a computer was a person, then the CPU is the brain. It is the electronic circuitry within a computer that carries out the instructions of a computer program by performing the basic arithmetic, logic, control, and input and output operations. The CPU is a fixed component within the computer, whereas things such as random access memory, or RAM, and hard disk storage can often be upgraded. But the type of CPU you choose, in this case AMD or Intel, has an impact on the performance of your PC. So it's an important choice. AMD and Intel have been rivals in this space for nearly 50 years, though Intel is slightly older than AMD. Intel was founded by Bob Noyce and Gordon Moore in 1968, and in 1974 it developed the 8080 processor, which became the foundation for the x86 processors that were used in desktop PCs for nearly 30 years. As for AMD, the company was founded in 1969. Jerry Sanders was AMD's first president and CEO. AMD was and still is a smaller company than Intel with a different business model. AMD doesn't actually build their own chips, they design them and then outsource the manufacturing process. In 2006, rivalry between the two companies picked up when AMD acquired ATI, a graphics processing unit or GPU manufacturer. This allowed AMD to deliver GPUs that live on the same chip as the CPU. This was a technological leap for AMD and a competitive factor in the portable device market, one of the fastest developing areas at that time. So how does the tech compare for these two chip developers? Intel sits well with high-end products, and the most expensive models running Intel tend to outperform competitors in overall performance. This is especially important in software that involves extremely complicated calculations, Photoshop, or other more complex renderings. Most of Intel's CPUs draw less heat and have lower thermal design point, or TDP ratings, which comes down to Intel's method of hyperthreading. According to Intel, hyperthreading uses processor resources more efficiently, enabling multiple threads to run on each core. It also increases processor throughput, improving overall performance on threaded software. AMD has a different strategy. They put their focus on increasing the number of cores. This can result in chips that run at higher temperatures, but then AMD uses a process called overclocking, which essentially means setting a CPU and memory to run at speeds higher than their official speed grade. AMD CPUs typically overclock with more reliability than the Intel processor, giving users a greater potential to tweak their devices according to personal preferences. AMD chips are also considered by some to be a better value. Entry-level prices for an AMD unit can be lower than the price of an equivalently functional Intel CPU. But though AMD might be said to offer more cores for a lower price, Intel's hyperthreading can be considered another competitive factor as you're increasing functionality without increasing the number of cores. So how does the landscape look in 2018 for these two CPU market dominators? Well, AMD already has highly capable desktop processors available, including the all-powerful Ryzen 9 series of CPUs. In 2018, the company is focusing on an area that has traditionally been a weakness: portable Windows 10 PCs. Laptops, notebooks, and other devices run Intel processors, so it's a major development hotspot for AMD. The new Ryzen mobile CPU line includes Vega graphics processing, and we're likely to see these CPUs powering portable computers. The company recently launched the AMD Ryzen 7 2700U and the Ryzen 5 2500U. Both come with a thermal design power, or TDP, of just 15W, opening the door to ultrabooks. AMD says these processors will outperform the Intel Core i5-7600K desktop processor, whilst being 6 times more power efficient. Big news for AMD, and now the responsibility of their device partners to penetrate the market. And it's not just laptops that come with Vega graphics. The Ryzen 5 2400G and the Ryzen 3 2200G desktop processors include a discrete Vega GPU. The Ryzen 5 2400G is near enough as capable as an Intel Core i5-8400 paired with an NVIDIA GTX 1030, yet costs around $100 less. Good news for those crypto miners looking for more cost-effective mining solutions. As AMD charges ahead with the launch of Ryzen, Intel is being forced to pick up the pace in order to remain competitive. 2017 saw the introduction of Coffee Lake, Intel's codename for the third 14nm process refinement following Broadwell, Skylake, and Kaby Lake. Desktop Coffee Lake CPUs represented a major change in Intel's core CPU's nomenclature, with i5 and i7 CPUs featuring 6 cores and i3 CPUs having 4 cores and dropping hyper-threading for the first time. And rumored to launch later in 2018 is a new EPYC server CPU with 64 cores, 256 MB of L3 cache using GlobalFoundries 7nm production process and support for DDR4 3200. Cannon Lake is already out, with production set to ramp up as we move further into 2018. Ice Lake will follow late this year or 2019. Both of these architectures are based on Intel's 10M production process, though on Intel's most recent earnings call, CEO Brian Krzanich came clean on the fact that the company is struggling with its 10nm process technology, and those struggles are preventing Intel from achieving good yields of 10nm chips. Sweet words to the ears of the AMD executive team, no doubt. So, these two chip corporations look like they'll continue to be rivals for a good time to come. They are different beasts from a market share perspective, and though they were close in 2006, with roughly 90% of the market shared equally, as of the second quarter of 2017, Intel owns 69% versus AMD's 31%. But AMD is making gains on Intel in 2018. Where the competition is pretty slim is in the good password manager business. We here at the Infographics Show have been using Dashlane, and we couldn't be happier. Dashlane is a password manager that makes it easier for you to control your digital identity. Try Dashlane complete